Hey everybody, so this is my testimony, and I'm sitting here with Emily, so if you hear her in the background, we're filming it together. But anyways, so my testimony, it's been a wild ride. So I'll just go ahead and start from when I was a kid. I'm not going to say everything, but my testimony, I was born and raised in a somewhat of a Christian household. My mom always went to church. My dad, he never went to church except for on special occasions, like if me and my siblings were in a concert or in a Christmas program, whatever. But I understand he's an over-the-road truck driver. So there are times where he couldn't be there. I understand that. But as I started getting a little bit older, probably about seven or 8 years old, I was at my babysitter's, and so we were swimming in the pool, and my mom went up to the babysitter and said, "Is it just me, or is Samantha's back crooked?" And come to find out, I went to the doctor a couple days after that, and I had scoliosis really, really bad. So, after I first had to have neck surgery because they did something, I don't even remember what they did, but had neck surgery first. That was when I was 8 years old. And then in 2001, when I was 9 years old, June of 2001, I went in to go have my back surgery. They had to put 2 rods in my back to try to straighten my spine. I had an 80-20 curve. 80% of my spine was curved, and it was horrible. It was like a snake.
Wow.
In my back.
Yeah.
So, had my surgery. I was in the hospital for like 2 months to recover and all of that. My relationship with my dad was okay. At first, I was a daddy's girl. I'm not even gonna lie. I was a daddy's girl.
Yeah.
And once I had my surgery, that relationship started going downhill. First, it would be verbal abuse. And one day, I was in the office helping my dad do copies and everything in the office, and I said, "Daddy, I'm hungry." And he said something really negative to me, and it just caused a lot of emotional trauma. And at that age, I was, of course, we were still going to church and everything. For me, I guess my mind wasn't fully comprehending everything that was being said. But after being mentally and emotionally abused, I started turning to other men as like a father figure. And so there were quite a few men that I looked up to while I was in church. But one evening, somebody got jealous, and they said that I was hitting on their husband. And I wasn't. I was just as a friend. I didn't speak. I would write things down and let him read it. So I wasn't even talking. Yes, I would give him hugs and all of that, but it wasn't like a infatuation with it. And so that kind of took my relationship with God, and I don't know, I just coming out of that and still trying to go to church, I felt like I was being judged.
Yeah.
And I even left that church. There was some pretty big church hurt because I felt like I was being judged. So from like 13 on, from the age of 13 on,
That happened when you were 13?
13, 14, yeah.
They thought you were hitting on their husband when you were 13 or 14?
Yeah.
That just goes to show you, like, how sick in the mind some people can be. Like, that... Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So, my mom brought in a lot of teenagers for a complete summer. And my mom was working in the office doing the secretary stuff. She was the secretary, the treasurer, everything for my dad's company. And she didn't have time for me or for really any of the kids that were there. So I would be the one held responsible to clean the entire house, do all the dishes, laundry, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad would come home, and if the house was not up to his standards, pretty much completely spotless, I would be the one to get abused. I would be the one to get hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, I wasn't the only one that got hit and all of that, but in that period of time, I was.
Mm-hmm.
My sister has her own story. I have my story.
Mm-hmm.
My brother has his. But it got to the point where he started becoming physically abusive. And
that's so hard, like, as a child.
That made me look at God as how I saw my dad, because I was still going to church, but I started looking at different churches here and there, and just...
Well, it's because you kind of feel like when you're a kid, you feel like that's... If this is allowed to be done to me, then that's how it is, you know?
I went to a Baptist church. Not saying anything bad about Baptist church or anything like that. Excuse me. But I just did not feel right when I was there. So I found another church. That church felt like it was being right back at home where I grew up in the previous church. And so I was there for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. Still, my relationship with God was... it was rocky. I am not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
It was rocky. So I continued to go to church. Mine, it was me going to church and going to all these church events. Like Emily said in hers, it was just a way to get out of being there at home, getting out of that environment. And I wouldn't really cry about having to go back home, but there was something in my gut that I did not want to go back home. And
can I mention something?
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like we need to talk about this. I know I'm kind of like interjecting
No,
here.
you're fine.
Me and Sam were both in a point in our lives where, and this is why me and Sam click so well, because she was experiencing trauma and literally all of the things that I was experiencing at the same time. It was almost like we were two separate people living the same life, different versions. And when we talk about God's love for us, it was almost like I had the same exact scenario that you were going through. Mm-hmm. Like with my dad, I didn't get along well with my dad. He was a different person when he was on drugs. And it's like we used church and we used
church as an escape.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the majority of people do use it as an escape initially.
Okay,
I'm going to give it back to Sam.
So Emily.
Should we just do a part 2 for your testimony? Because we're going to have to upload it anyway.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2. We'll do a part 2 to my testimony, because there's still some things that need to be discussed that are a part of my story. So we will do a second part. Here we go.